as I began to date, he had that same thing that going on, so it was very familiar that, man, your mother died too? Mm-hmm. So then we're like, oh, let's hang out, you know, because we're the same. But now, broken meets
Plus, she was fine. She was fine, too.
I'm just saying. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you all out to a musical extravaganza called the Night and Day Project. Please, save your applause to me. Do it because I love living. You don't hear me, though.
It was hard because Todd was used to being kind of, you know, the single guy, you know, again, the popular guy. And so he was always out, you know, always out at the basketball court or always, you know, kind of doing something. I'm like, you know, you're married now, you know, and he just didn't see that. And then he kind of thought that I was kind of nagging and, you know, kind of getting into his life. I'm like, well, you know, I am part of your life now. And he couldn't see that.
So coming into a marriage was totally new, even with, you know, because the fact of the matter is you need to answer to your wife. And I'm like, answer to my wife? I'm like, I'm gone, you know, and all of my friends were single.
Everybody we knew was single.
Lived like a single guy that was married. And none of my friends were smart enough to say, why are you hanging out with us? You need to go home to your wife.
Mm-hmm. I actually met somebody and, you know, I ended up having an affair and it came out like 2 years later. I was, you know, it wasn't a long-term relationship, but I guess I had some remnants left around and Todd found out. And it was very painful for me because you don't, you know, you kind of feel like he's had a lot of affairs and women kind of think like it's okay, well, I'm gonna do it too. And it was just very painful for me to even, you know, recognize that, man, you know, why did I do this? You know, he was those last 10 years, he tried to work so hard to be a better man, to be a better father, you know, and he gave me everything I needed, everything I wanted, but the brokenness was in there that I couldn't even recognize that he had changed.
And I couldn't recognize it either. I just, like I said, I just absorbed it. Okay, I deserve that.
He went through the motions.
So that wasn't good for us either.
So that relationship that I had, you know, ended quickly, but the residue that transpired after that, it was, it made a storm.
Society has taught men that doesn't happen to men. The women don't do the cheating, you do the cheating. Oh, you gonna take that? Oh, if I was you, you know? And I thank God that I am the person that I am because I didn't have to deal with that. You know, because my male friends respect me. Now, I know behind the door they're talking. I'm not silly, you know, but I don't care about that because there's a bigger purpose in our life than what people think. You know, because there's going to be people that's going to watch this and going to be like, stupid number one, stupid number two. you know, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But you know what? That person back there saying that, you go ahead and be miserable in your marriage because you're not going to open up and you're not going to accept any growth coming from somebody else's experience because you're too busy casting judgment.
So will you guys stand up, Todd and Alicia? We are just so thankful for you all for sharing your story. A lot of people asked us last season after there was a few infidelity stories, like, where's the woman cheating, right? Like, first off, like why were people mad at us? Nevertheless, the part of it is that women, just like you said, people don't expect it from women. They don't think that's okay or whatever. They don't think that's a part of reality and that it's okay for men and it's not okay for women. And so thank you guys for both being brave enough to share that part of your lives and your story with us so that other people can learn from it. Because of course, people are going through it.
I'll give you my mic if Grant will share his with me.
No, you can sing. You can sing again. You can sing. How you doing?
Welcome. So will you guys share a little bit about what you learned about yourselves trying to get back to once you were trying to get to a healthy, happy place and be together?
Well, like I said, Todd and I were very, very young. We lost our mothers very young. I think that was the beginning. You know, when you don't have a mother, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't have a dad around, but when you don't have a mom, you know, you're alone. I mean, I was 12, and I saw my mother die actually in the hospital. So all those things developed the brokenness. Mm-hmm. And then so as I began to date, and I met Todd, you know, Todd had that same, he had that same thing that going on. So it was very familiar that, man, your mother died too. Mm-hmm. So then we're like, oh, let's hang out, you know, because we're the same. But now broken meets
Plus,
broken.
she was fine. She was fine too.
But broken meets broken, right? So then you have a broken marriage, and then you have broken children, and you have broken relationships. Yep. And so that's what happened on and on throughout our marriage. And then, you know, Todd was seeking other things. I don't think I was able to give him everything when we were young.
She couldn't because the voids were too deep to be filled. With me stealing her innocence, because in all actuality, I corrupted our marriage from the beginning. And I brought the infidelity in. And she may have never went down that road. But my void and my brokenness was so deep from losing my mother, trying to fill that void with other women, mm-hmm. not believing in God, so I had a huge void because I blamed God for taking my mother because we weren't taught properly. God did not take my mother. But that's what people tell you to comfort. Well, you know, God took your mom. Sometimes God does bad things to good people. Yeah. Oh, really? Right? So I didn't want anything to do with him. So that was a huge void that was created that no matter how many women I was with, and the hole was an abyss. It wasn't getting filled.
And Todd was never going to leave me. He had mentioned that. It was not about me leaving you. He goes, I just needed to get away. I was stressed. I was stressed that I was he was a new husband, and he was a young husband, so he didn't know how to be a husband like, you know, you guys talked about. It's hard when you're especially that young. And so we went through so much turmoil, you know, during that time, and it just got worse.
What did it take ultimately for you to learn even what you're saying now, right? Because you were oblivious to it. What did it take?
Whew. It took some really difficult times. And Todd started to see, oh my God, if I don't get out of this situation, if I don't stop doing this, I'm really gonna lose Alicia. And then so for me, God. I had to have God in my life. Whenever we slipped away from God and didn't answer to God, we were back into, like he says, the abyss. We were back out in the street, back looking for something that, you know, made us feel good. And ultimately, God brought us back here.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk a little bit about just counseling? Because, you know, we talk a lot, you know, when we do this, that there is a stigma in our community about seeing counselors, therapists, et cetera. And not only did you guys do it, but you realized at some point that you needed to find someone who could talk to you about what you were going through. Every therapist isn't right for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and that's I want to touch on that, because Todd and I had many counselors throughout the years. And as a matter of fact, if we had to add it all up, we've been together 31 years. Mm-hmm. So we went to counselor after counselor after counselor, and it's just like a hairdresser. You know, someone knows how to do hair color versus the hairdo versus a weave. You know, so it's like, you know, do you know how to do infidelity? You know, so we.
Yeah. Do you know how to do hard-headedness and stubbornness?
So we ended up finding, again, by the grace of God, we found Hassani and Danielle Pettifor. Like he knew every bit of what we went through, the inner parts of, you know, what we're going through. And right now, we're even mentoring 15 to 20 couples ourselves that are going through infidelity. Yeah. So I advise the men, don't play around. Go to a infidelity coach if that's what you guys are going through. Don't do it by yourself. It's not, you know, it's not going to work if you do it by yourself.
Yeah. Also, too, in regards to the counseling, we had enough experience to know good counselors and bad counselors. And we actually learned too, once we realized it was a spiritual attack, we also realized that every counselor doesn't have your best interest in hand for your marriage. You know?
This one counselor told me, as I was telling her everything, she was filing her nails. Alicia, what's your plan B?
It's like, to leave you, goodbye.
Wow.
That was the last time I saw her.
Yeah, and also too, the first counselor, it was hard enough for me to go to counseling, and just like most of the men in here are probably in the same situation, they just refuse. If we can't do it ourselves, then it's not gonna work.
Right.
Okay, stay there. I finally submitted. I said, okay, I'll go. She got in touch with a counselor. She spoke to this counselor. I never met her. I never spoke to her. The counselor told her to leave me. That was about 25 years ago. And here we are now. God done turned our whole mess into a ministry.
Yes.
So now y'all see why we had to make sure we share their story today.